Hi, my name is Rebecca Quintana, and today I'm going to be talking about a lesson plan that I used with my preschool students from the Preschool Learning Foundations. Number sense is the category. Um, in this lesson, some of my students couldn't identify numbers. Others could, but they couldn't count objects, and um, some of them were able to identify numbers and count objects, but they couldn't count two groups together. Um, this lesson is developmentally appropriate for these students. I did provide some scaffolding for them. So here is the Preschool Learning Foundations and the Common Core Standards, how they bridge. So if you look at the Preschool Learning Foundations 1.0, number sense 1.0, children begin to understand numbers and quantities in their everyday environment. And as you can see, they in 1.1 they could recite numbers in order to 20 with increasing accuracy, recognize and know the name of some written numbers, count to 10 objects using one-to-one correspondence. And as you see in the Common Core kindergarten, they can count to 100, so it just increases those numbers. They could also count by tens. And they also need to be able to understand the relationship between numbers and quantities, connecting counting to cardinality. And they should be able to count and answer how many questions, up to like about 20 things arranged in a line. So these learning standards, it just is a step up, one step further. It bridges from the Preschool Learning Foundations. So here's a lesson plan that I put together. I would first start with the informal assessment, kind of see where the kids are at, what they know, what they need to know, what they need to be scaffolded on. And then I would start, my next step would be go to a large group where we could discuss and review numbers. I'd read a book about counting by ones and by tens and let the students participate by touching the smartboard, followed by songs about counting to 100 by ones and by tens. And then we would break up into the small groups, and where each one would work on a different thing. One group would be iPads, where they would have preset games and activities. And then group 2 would be freely exploring manipulatives and number cards. And group 3 would have direct instruction from the teacher or the parent educator. So that would be the first part A to the lesson. And then part B to the lesson would be, again, another large group where we would read a book about counting objects to 20, and then I would play a video about counting objects. And then we would work on some activities on the smartboard where the students can participate. And then we would break up into smaller groups, again, have a similar setup. One group would work on iPads. The second group would be exploring freely. And the third group would be with the teacher where they would get direction and direct instruction. And in the small groups, I don't know if I mentioned this, but they would be rotating in a 15-minute cycle. So that way they could each have an opportunity to go to each group. And then the last step that we would do is we would do an assessment. After all the lessons would be taught, we would have an assignment where the students can choose how they want to demonstrate their knowledge, whether it's through the iPad, draw a picture, use manipulatives, use a smartboard, or verbally respond to the questions. And the materials that we would need for this lesson is iPad, smartboard, manipulatives, touch math, tangible numbers, tactile numbers, books, digital Google Slides, and various math videos. The adaptations for OI is alternative response with an AT device, alternative work location, slant board, or sloped writing table. And the scaffolds that we would be using in this lesson, the students would have tangible manipulatives, allow circling or highlighting when counting the objects. Number lines are available, partially filled in numbers on the pages, AT device to assist, verbal and physical prompting to support students as needed, and peer models. And then the grouping strategies that I would use is I would group students in varying levels so we could utilize peer directed activities and peer modeling. So this is my bridge lesson from the preschool learning foundations and bridging it to the Common Core standards required in kindergarten. Thanks for listening.